Mr. Shapiro?
You know, honestly, Piers, you've kind of been a bully on this issue because what you do, and I've seen it repeatedly on your show, I watch your show, and I've seen it repeatedly, what you tend to do is you tend to demonize people who differ from you politically by standing on the graves of the children of Sandy Hook, saying they don't seem to care enough about the dead kids. If they cared more about the dead kids, they would agree with you on policy. I think we can have a rational political conversation about balancing rights and risks and rewards of all of these different policies, but I don't think that what we need to do is demonize people on the other side as being unfeeling about what happened in Sandy Hook.
How dare you accuse me of standing on the graves of the children that died there? How dare you?
I've seen you do it repeatedly, Piers.
Like I say, how dare you?
Well, I mean, you can keep saying that, but you've done it repeatedly. What you do, and I've seen you do it on the program, is you keep saying to folks that if they disagree with you politically, then somehow this is a violation of what happened in Sandy Hook. And you have yet, I'd really like to hear your policy prescriptions for what we should do about guns. Because you say that you respect the Second Amendment, and, you know, I brought this here for you so that you can read it. It's the Constitution. And I would really like for you to explain to me what you would do about guns that would have prevented what happened in Sandy Hook. If you want to do what you did in the UK, right, which is ban virtually all guns, that is at least a fair argument. And we can have a discussion about whether that's something that we ought to do or not.
Given this disparity, how can you argue that racism is not a driving factor in income inequality?
Because it has nothing to do with race and everything to do with culture. And when you have a culture that doesn't... You know what? Explain to me. You explain to me why black kids aren't graduating high school. Explain that one to me. Explain to me why black kids are shooting each other in rates significantly higher than whites are shooting each other. Explain to me why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder. Explain to me why the number of black kids in prison, not for innocent reasons, not for walking down the street and getting pulled into a prison, is so high. Explain, if it has nothing to do with culture, explain to me why the single motherhood rate in the black community jumped from 20% to 70% in the same course of time that the civil rights movement has made such tremendous strides. Is America more racist now than it was in 1960? And if it is, please explain to me how that happened.
MTV released a video of a bunch of people who you would never want to associate with in real life. Like people who, like, you just look at them and how smug and self-satisfied they are, and you think, I would not want to be within 100 miles of these folks. MTV released a video of resolutions for white guys for 2017. They're telling you what your resolutions should be, because there's nothing more ideologically fascistic than telling other people what they should aspire to be in the coming year. Here's MTV informing you. Remember when MTV used to put on music videos? Remember that? Yeah, not anymore. This is what it is now.
It's about to be a new year, and there's a few things we think you could do a little bit better in 2017.
First off, try to recognize that America was never great for anyone who wasn't a white guy.
Can we all just agree that Black Lives Matter isn't the opposite of All Lives Matter?
Okay, so I love that the first gal gets up and says, can we agree America was never great for anyone who wasn't a white male? No, we can't agree on that at all. As a Jew, with ancestors who were Jews, I can pretty much agree America's the greatest country that God ever created. And by the way, for black people living in today's America, America's the greatest country that God ever created. And even during Jim Crow, America was a much better country for black people than the vast majority of countries around the world, which is not a case in favor of Jim Crow, God forbid. But to suggest that America was never great for anybody except white men is just a bunch of crap. I mean, how about white women, by the way? White women have had it better in America than any place else on earth. I mean, America is heaven for white women. I mean, white women now earn more than white men. White women are going to college at a higher rate than white men. Even in the supposedly horrific, terrible, horrible, terrible 50s, women were actually pretty happy, if you look at the polls, of female satisfaction, because they were living in a prosperous country. And what a bunch of nonsense. And then this woman says, can we just agree that Black Lives Matter doesn't just mean Black Lives Matter? All Lives Matter is not a response to Black Lives Matter. No, because the entire Black Lives Matter movement is predicated on the notion that black lives are specifically under different assault than other lives in the United States by white people, and that is not true. And then I do love the fact that where they go next in this MTV video is they say, Black Lives Matter, you know, it doesn't, All Lives Matter is not a proper response to Black Lives Matter, because of course all lives matter, but we're just talking about black lives now. And then the next thing they say is that not all lives matter. Also, stop mansplaining to us. Stop mansplaining to us. Mansplaining is the stupidest word that anyone ever created, mansplaining. Okay, it's called an explanation. If a man is doing it and it is worthwhile, that does not mean that he's doing it as a man. Okay, men used to have a word for women's splaining. It was called nagging. Okay, this routine. But honestly, it's such silliness. I mean, continue it because these people desperately. This is Donald Trump's re-election ad right here, and it's fun to watch.
Ben, does she deserve this award?
For what?
For courageously coming forward, for having been an athlete of great prowess, and now fighting a new battle.
What exactly is the battle? I mean, self-definition is what you do, and my baby's doing it 18 months old. I wasn't aware that you get a medal for it.
And being transgender is about the bravest thing you can do. Does she deserve the award?
65?
Yes.
Why are we mainstreaming delusion?
It's not delusion.
Why would you call it delusion?
Because Caitlyn Jenner, I'll call him Caitlyn Jenner.
No,
because
it's her. You're not being polite to the pronouns.
Because
disrespectful.
Okay, forget about the disrespect. Facts don't care about your feelings. It turns out that every chromosome, every cell in Caitlyn Jenner's body is male with the exception of some of his sperm cells. It turns out that his brain structure is male. It turns out that he still has all of his male appendages. How he feels on the inside is irrelevant to the question of his biological sex.
So you have a thing like Klinefelter's syndrome. So you don't know what you're talking about. You're not educated on genetics.
Would you like to discuss the genetics? Or
Well,
what are your genetics?
So I'd stay away from the genetics and back to the brain scans.
You cut that out now, or you'll go home in an ambulance.
Yeah, that seems mildly inappropriate for a political discussion.
How do you say that some people don't have privilege when you basically just said that trans people aren't valid? They're not a thing. They're just girls pretending to be boys or boys pretending to be girls.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, someone's excited. Okay.
Biological, but gender is a completely different thing.
No, gender is not disconnected from sex. So.
It's not completely disconnected, but it's still a cultural thing. It's still from society.
Okay. No, it is not in the mind. Okay, you're not a man if you think you're a man. And I didn't say pretending, or if I did, I shouldn't have said pretending. Let me amend.
You said playing.
Okay, I said a boy who thinks he's a girl. That's the usual phraseology I use. Not playing. I usually say a boy who thinks he's a girl or a girl who thinks he's a boy, which is technically what we're talking about here. As far as the actual psychological issues at play, it used to be called gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder. Now they call it gender dysphoria. The idea that sex or gender are malleable is not true. Okay, and I'm not denying your humanity if you're a transgender person. I am saying that you are not the sex to which you claim to be. You're still a human being, and you're a human being with an issue that I wish you Godspeed in dealing with in whatever way you see fit. But if you are going to dictate to me that I'm supposed to pretend that men are women and women are men, no. My answer is no. I'm not going to modify basic biology because it threatens your subjective sense of what you are.
Okay, but you're still saying these kids should not be accepted because they don't really fit in either place. They can't just
I'm saying that the Boy Scouts have a standard. You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout.
Where's that written though? Okay.
In the name Boy Scouts. Because this is a very because for all of human history, boy meant boy and girl meant girl. Boy did not mean girl.
People are very more dangerous culture.
And if I call you a moose, are you suddenly a moose? Okay, if I redefine our terms. No, yes, that's right. Men and women are a completely different thing. This is true. Have you ever met a man or a woman? They're completely different.
It's a completely different thing. You can't just say you're a cat. It's not a thing. It's genders. It's not saying you're.
Okay, why is that? I don't understand. Why? Okay, let me ask you this. Okay, I won't ask you how old. I will ask you how old you are. Okay, because you're young enough that it's probably not insulting to ask you. So.
I'm 22, so I'm probably young and naive, right?
No. Why aren't you 60? Why aren't you 60?
Because it.
And why can't you identify as 60? What is the problem with you identifying as 60?
It's not the same as gender. You can't just.
You're right. Age is significantly less important than gender. You can't magically change your gender. You can't magically change your sex. You can't magically change your age.
You can still legally change it. People recognize.
You can't legally change your age, by the way. The truth is that Mother Teresa did less good for the world than Bill Gates, as a general matter. Because more people gained their jobs through Bill Gates, more people have a product that Bill Gates created, more people's lives have been bettered through Bill Gates. Mother Teresa did a lot of wonderful things. But the reality of the situation is that what makes your life better than people's lives were 50 years ago is all the new products and services developed by all the rich people who hire you. All of you out there who I'm sure are not rich, are you working for a poor person right now? Who is hiring you? Who's paying your salary? Unless you're working for the government, and even then you're not working for a poor person, you're paying for the rich people who actually pay the taxes that pay for you to work for the government. So this idea that economic growth is a function of people making $15 an hour versus $14 an hour is simply not true. The reality of the situation is that what makes the economy grow is new products and services that make your life better and which require millions of dollars in research and development. And as far as the point that was made about the salary of the CEO of Walmart, all I can say is this. Walmart has approximately, they're the biggest employer in the country. They have something on the order of 2 million employees across the country. Let's say we agree that 20 million is too much, and let's say that we cut that salary to zero. Great, we just gave everybody $10, right, for the year. Well, I mean, I think number one, Trevor Noah is slightly below bubonic plague on the funny scale, so it's not really a shock that he'd come out with a tweet like that. But this shouldn't be a surprise. I think Trevor Noah kind of let loose what a lot of Democrats actually think, which is that there's no reason abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. The internal logic of that statement, the old Clinton formulation, doesn't hold. If abortion is about aborting something that isn't fully human, then why should it be rare? And if it is about aborting something that is human, then why exactly should it be legal? So the full-scale celebration that you see, the idea that abortion is actually birth control, that's what most Democrats believe, including the Democratic Party platform, which it was revealed today, calls for a destruction of literally all state and federal laws that restrict, quote, access to an abortion, as well as public funding for abortion both at home and abroad. They don't believe abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. They think that it's just a form of birth control.
You know that you weren't registered, whatever, for the group didn't register you for the event. They have strict things, so you're not allowed, you know, into the event.
Well, I mean, YAF did inform you that I was coming as a speaker, as a person sitting in the audience, as well as a member of Christina Hoff Sommers' team. So I'm not sure whether their standards are necessary. I'm also wondering exactly why it's so necessary to keep me personally out.
We're just following protocol, sir.
Well, why is your protocol to keep me specifically out?
What country protocol? Soviet Union or United States?
Do you want to step over here to the side?
Well, I'm happy to do it right here if you'd like. I mean,
Doesn't have to
it needs
step
to be
up.
private.
The bottom line is it's private property, okay? Proper procedures weren't followed, and you're not going to be allowed.
So am I to understand that if I take 3 steps forward, you will attempt to have me arrested?
If you create a problem and you will not, you know, leave the campus, yes.
Okay, so just to be clear, if I attempt to enter that hall right there and sit down just to listen to somebody speak, or if I attempt to ask a question or to engage in free speech, you will have me arrested.
At this point, yes, sir.
Okay, I'm glad that we've clarified that situation. I'm also glad that in a city, I mean, clearly you have great security. I'm glad in a city that has some 4,000 shootings to this date, you have 30 members of security just for a 5'9", 165 Jewish guy. The truth about healthcare is this. There are 3 qualities of healthcare that you can have. You can have affordability, you can have universality, or you can have quality. And you can have 2 of those 3 things, but not all 3. Right? You can have universality, affordability, or quality. 2 of those 3 things you can have. Reimburse people for their bad health. If you join up with an insurance company and your health sucks to begin with, you are going to pay more because it's an insurance company, not a charity. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have... But what we can't do is suggest, as the Bernie Sanders left does, that health care is an inalienable right, and therefore you can put a gun to my wife's head, she's a doctor, and you can force her to provide care at any cost you want to pay. You can't do that and hope to increase the supply of health care. Health insurance is not health care. They're not the same thing. And anybody who tells you differently is lying or trying to sell you something. The problem with Medicare for All is that when people say that it's affordable, this isn't affordable to the person who has the Medicare. It is not affordable to the country. In fact, it is so unaffordable to the country that the state of California was a nut job leftist state, just refused to even pass Medicare for All because it would have immediately doubled the debt. That all depends on whether the press decides that they hate Hillary. If they decide that they hate Hillary and they can find the bright new young thing, then they'll throw Hillary over in a New York Minute. Unless they've decided that they really love Bill so much that they want Hillary. They can't stand, the press can't stand Hillary. I mean, nobody on the left can really stand Hillary. They love Bill, but they can't stand Hillary. Basically, the press's relationship with Hillary is Bill's relationship with Hillary. Right? They're in a forced marriage, and they don't really like her very much, and they will cheat at the first available opportunity. But, yeah, but they have to be there because, hey...